All right. Good morning, everyone. Have you had your coffee yet? Okay. Good morning. Welcome to IF Expo Dubai 2025. I'm Sandra Spencer, and it's a privilege to be your host here at the Idea Hub, the playground of new, innovative, and creative ideas, where you have the opportunity to learn and discover more about startups, investors, and the biggest trend of the moment, prop trading. To kick off the day, I am thrilled to introduce our first panel, Beyond the Global Challenges, the UAE's rise as a startup and investor hub. And with that, I'd love to turn the stage over to our moderator. So please welcome Jigar Sagar, founder and managing partner at Triliv Holdings.
Thank you. Hi, good morning, everyone. Good morning, panelists. And it's been a great 2024, but what we have seen coming through from the economy and the markets is there was a bit of a downside and a downturn, globally speaking. There were a lot of challenges being faced, specifically when it comes to the economies out there. And somehow, UAE has been at the forefront of being that resilient body to face those challenges and come out stronger. So today's panel is about what are the strategies that were adapted and what are the trends that are coming up in the future, which allows UAE to keep rising at any given time when it comes to entrepreneurship or even now when it comes to investments. So I would like to start by introducing the panelists, and we start with Grant Niven. Grant is the founder and partner at Mingzulu that provides financial advisory services. So Grant, if you can introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. So good morning, everyone. So I've lived in the UAE now for 11 years, originally from Europe, from UK, Scotland. And I've come from a background where I've worked both in the professional services consulting world, a banker in the region in Saudi Arabia, where I led ventures and digital for one of the large tier one Saudi banks. And then I set up a business in 2022, which is a senior advisory firm to investors, growth stage founders, and enterprise businesses that predominantly operate in the Middle East. But we also work with a number of international inbound companies that are all looking to make this place their home in the region. So there's a lot to cover actually today. So I'll share some experiences.
Pleasure. Thank you. Next, we have Johan Kragbaek, who is a senior VP at Greenstone Equity Partners, which is a leading capital raising and advisory firm that is headquartered here in the UAE.
Thanks a lot. Hello, everyone. I'm a senior vice president, as he mentioned, with Greenstone Equity Partners. We're headquartered in Dubai with roughly 90 employees. I've spent most of my career in and around private equity and VC. With Greenstone, I'm so lucky to be working on growing new business lines, which is essentially my job description. So less focused on their main business, which is capital raising. That also means that I am the head of investor success of a new business line that we've launched called Billions.ae, which is a direct to high net worth individual investment platform for VC funds and other types. And excited to be here.
Thank you for coming, Johan. And last but not least, we have Amna Chaudhry, who is a financial economist and a frontier tech strategist. Amna, if you can introduce yourself.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So my name is Amna Usman Chaudhry. I'm a financial economist and strategist for frontier technologies ranging from blockchain to AI to Web3. I'm also a graduate level lecturer with teaching experience in London and Dubai. So I'm a founder, board member, and I have had the opportunity to work with global organizations like the UN. I'm really excited for the conversation today.
Thank you. So jumping into a discussion right now, and I would like to start with the question. I mean, we have seen a lot of things change in and around UAE over the last 18 years, and there have been a lot of opportunities that have emerged and a lot of challenges as well. Now, specifically from your experience, since all three of you have UAE experience, what are those challenges and opportunities that you have seen UAE present when it comes to the world of startups and finance. And specifically, if you can share about what you or your organization has been doing with these changing conditions. So Amna, if we can start with you.
Yeah, the past 18 months or so have been really exciting times for the UAE. So we have seen that from the emerging tech perspective and the fintech perspective, there's been a lot of changes happening. With the UAE, it has been really embracing these changes in a way that creates a conducive system for startups and investors alike. So take the case of AI. The UAE has been very strategic in implementing its UAE National Strategy for AI 2031, in which they aim to be leaders in AI globally by 2031. And they have been making strategic moves in the space from a long time. And this has been, recognized globally. They are already number 5 on the AI Global Readiness Index by Stanford Institute of Human-Centered AI. And some of the strategic moves that they made, which help the ecosystem for businesses and startups, etc., include investing in creating a partnership with Microsoft in which they plan to upskill 1 million UAE residents by 2027 to address the shortage of AI talent and emerging tech talent. They've also, particularly G42, has made a deal with Microsoft in which they aim to build responsible AI centers in the UAE in Abu Dhabi, making them leaders in the responsible AI ecosystem as well. And this is despite the challenges in the geopolitical ecosystem, in particular with AI access to chip technology that we have seen with restrictions by US government to firms like NVIDIA and AMD. So despite that, they have really come out strong. And even on the fintech side, the past year alone, we have seen a massive uptake in regulatory clarity. So the UAE Central Bank last April introduced the open finance regulation, and then later there was the payment services token regulation, which really clarified the regulatory framework for token services, including stablecoins, which eventually led to the launch of the first AED backed stablecoin last year, the AE coin, regulated by the Central Bank of UAE. And similarly with WARA, the Virtual Assets Regulatory Authority, there's been a lot of regulatory clarity over the past few years, making it a more conducive system to set up businesses here and improve. That said, there are still challenges for outsiders which need to be worked upon. So despite these regulatory clarities, the UAE ecosystem in terms of regulation is still very complex for someone coming out from the outside. So there's so many free zones, more than 40 free zones. There are so many, jurisdictions. So that is something that still needs clarification, but we are moving definitely in the right direction.
Thank you, Amna. Johan, what are your thoughts about the opportunities and the challenges that were presented in the recent times?
Well, first of all, I think I agree with a lot of the things that Amna said. I can maybe talk a bit from the private funds side. When I first came to the region 4 years ago, most of the venture capital fund managers that we were talking to in my capacity were flying in from abroad, and they weren't really otherwise invested in the region. But what we've seen over the past maybe year and a half is that there's a trend that these fund managers are now setting up locally, which is positive for both the startups that are seeking funding, as well as the investors, of course, looking for institutional grade investment opportunities. When you're looking at VC funding in total, the amount itself is actually slightly down from 2022 highs. That being said, the number of individual investors and the number of investments that goes into VC is trending upwards, which I think is a great trend and a positive sign for the future. Ourselves, we're looking to be sort of an enabler in all of this, enable VC fund managers to access capital here compliantly, and with that, of course, enable investors to have an interesting path to attract the VC deals. Next, of course, you need an ecosystem which gets the founders going, gets the entrepreneurs going, It's great to see that we have, DIFC-based innovation hub. You have excellent accelerators, etc. in Abu Dhabi, and then of course my fellow panelists, which are also doing a great job with their respective founders.
Amazing. Grant, what have you specifically faced as challenges in your workspace, in your environment, and what would you say were some of the opportunities that you tapped into?
Yeah, so just to complement Jonas and Amna, I think we work with the exec teams and founders of a number of growth stage firms, as well as inbound international companies who are now taking this region very seriously. So I kind of term UAE is a bit like the new Switzerland. It's geopolitically independent. It engages with multiple markets, some of which are sanctioned by the West. With that, it's seen a huge influx of talent, additional talents come in. So this is a place now where all businesses, especially technology-enabled businesses, can get access to really global expertise on their doorstep. The ease of doing business, like we've touched on regulation, but actually there is a lot of complexity around some of the free zones and onshore, but actually the ability to set a business up here is relatively quick to many other geographies around the world. And that's all been enabled by digital government, as well as a lot of the authorities that sit in the free zones. So these are all positives, in some cases complexity and challenges. I think some of the big challenges though, and there's a lot of myths that the UAE, broader GCC is the land of milk and honey when it comes to capital for people to fly in who are founders of businesses or funds and get people to invest. And what we are seeing a lot of, because we work with both investors as well as the entrepreneurship community and scale businesses, unless you're investing in this region, it's getting harder and harder for these investors to really prioritize you. So I think a lot of businesses, and the challenge for some organizations, if they're international but not Middle East, if they're coming here, they're increasingly not finding success, especially in capital raise. And these are some of the things we'll chat through as well. I think the other piece is there's people are landing in the UAE as a start point, but they're not necessarily getting the nuances. This is a global environment. It's very international in nature. It's a Middle East country. But using this as a launch pad into the broader GCC and the wider Middle East, North Africa region, there's a lot of cultural nuances that need to be thought through. And I think, again, that's something that it can be a challenge for organizations that are international in nature, that think just because they're here, they can deal with the broader Arab states. So something, again, I think we should touch on a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a serial entrepreneur myself and, having set up over 100 plus companies over the years, predominantly here from UAE, I can definitely tell you that the landscape has been changing dynamically in terms of regulations, in terms of the ease of doing business, or even the ease of setting up business. Just last year, UAE was the first country where an AI-generated trade license was issued in Q4. What we have also been seeing is that from an investment capacity, there has been a great shift, at least in the mindset, but I mean, obviously it's going to take a while before it trickles down onto the grassroots level, but your D33 activities, whereby the government is predominantly promoting the region as not just something which has always been a great startup hub, but also a great place to be on a global scale, competing globally, to be the land for investment opportunities. But one of the challenges that comes with something like that is a lot more people are getting attracted to the region, but at the same time, a lot more companies are getting attracted to the region. And all of a sudden, what we find is there is a sort of a talent crunch. So Grant, I would like to turn this question to you. In these changing times, it's very important to be mindful of the teams we are building. And from your experience, in your capacity, what would you say have been some of the biggest challenges that you've had to face when it comes to putting the right team together in the UAE market?
Yeah, so I'll come at this from a couple of different angles. So we're working with businesses that are scaling here significantly, and I'll talk about that in a minute. but we're also in a previous role. So I used to lead ventures and digital for large Saudi organization. Saudi Arabia, and we're not going to dwell on that, there's major digital transformation happening, and there isn't access to the talent in country. In that particular instance, we decided, and I'll use this real example, to build a digital ventures hub in another geography to supply demand to that business. And the key things that were important with that, so we went from 0 people to over 150 people in 9 months, which was building, it was a lot of talent, engineering, product people, designers, data scientists, agile practitioners to help drive digital product for a major transformation for a scale company. Easier said than done. And I think the most important thing is you can have the best strategy in the world, but if you don't have the right employee value proposition, ultimately something that creates the culture that relatively new group of people want to be part of, it's going to fail. So one of the most important things is culture eats strategy for breakfast. And any organization that doesn't get it right will find attrition. You'll find people will always get a better offer, they'll disappear off and move on. So I think that employee value proposition and culture aspect is probably number one around talent, right? So there's a lot of demand for the right skills, especially in the world of digital, in the trading world, in the investment world. So you need to make sure that people come and stay. The other parts are looking at giving people some flexibility in their, like post-COVID. So you want people to be in an office and to build a culture, but equally you need to give people flexibility. So giving them flexibility in their personal lives, abilities to work remotely, to be hybrid, to be in the office. These again, and these practices are very, very prevalent here. And providing the right tooling to people, giving them the right support as employees, again, key to getting that right. And this region, UAE in particular, I think especially with the traffic, certain parts of the city, if people live on the other end of the city, they're spending 2 hours in a car or public transport trying to get home and this economy is now addressing that by allowing people, even at government level, to have a lot more flexibility versus being on-premise office-based.
You're getting a train.
I got the metro today, which was very quick. And then I think building on that, continuous learning, self-improvement, organizations that actually embed that in their culture in terms of their talent approach and give people the opportunity to learn in a way that's going to be in their own time, and reward people with that is going to also make you an attractive employer. And that doesn't matter what industry you're in. And so the days of just providing rewards, that someone will always pay a bit more for the best people, right? So I think those 3 key things, they're key things for me, that I think this region's getting a lot sharper with now, and there's a global mindset coming in.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. See, the minute you have great talent working with you, for you, what you will see all of a sudden emerge is multiple opportunities, because it's great talent that can identify great opportunities. And I would like to turn to Johan on that note, saying there have been great opportunities in the past, but there's also great opportunities that you can foresee. Now, in your capacity, what are you doing, or what is your organization doing to tap into those particular opportunities?
I think, first of all, I agree a lot that getting the right talent on board and retaining talent is difficult. It's an expat community. We've really had to look inwards in figuring out stock options programs and stuff like that, because we're hiring from abroad, we're hiring in the country, but getting people to stay and not have them leave just for a few extra dirhams per month is, can be challenging. So I fully agree. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Now, I can't look into the future, but we can look at a couple of years back to see what may lie ahead. Over the last 2 years, in 2023 and in 2024, there were 29 VC deals in fintech. So if you look at which kind of startups are gonna do best and do well in the future, maybe fintech is going to be the most attractive sector. And I think that's true. So if you can sort of nail the right setup, that's going to be very interesting. Generally speaking, this region, this country, has the highest influx of high net worth individuals anywhere in the world. A lot of these are investors, either individual high net worth individuals or even institutional investors, and they're all looking to invest and deploy capital and move money. And if you can see yourself somewhere in that picture and offer some value to that ecosystem of moving money and investments and finance broader, I think you can be set out for a really interesting growth path. If you look at finance as a whole, you mentioned open banking. I think that's also going to open a lot of doors. And the really interesting thing about that is you don't know exactly which doors it's going to open. I think democratizing this whole space and just enable product builders to build cool products that consumers love is something that we can expect to see more of. I have close friends of mine working with open banking in some of the top banks here, and they've just gotten started. So I think a lot lies ahead. That's really cool. Now, many would say that this region is more old school and you can't automate and we need a WhatsApp and you can't use AI. But trust me, just as well as when we move from like a Sunday to Thursday work week, everyone are going to fall in line when it comes to this. Everyone are going to leverage AI. It's going to come into this whole thing. So yeah, I'd be silly not to mention that as well.
Right. I mean, I don't think people are now going to struggle accepting that remote working is the norm. I don't think people are going to struggle accepting that AI needs to be something that your organization needs to embrace. But what you also see is that with these huge changes, ultimately, the way of doing business changes. And fortunately, unfortunately, not all sectors are able to adapt at the same rate. So Amna, I would like to turn to you and ask you that what could organizations be doing to be embracing these new trends faster? And also, what do you think is going to happen to those organizations that don't manage to catch up?
Yeah, so there's no doubt that we're in the midst of the fourth, and some say even the fifth industrial revolution. So technology is moving almost exponentially, and the fact of the matter is that those organizations that do not innovate will eventually be disrupted. So the strategy that organizations and businesses need to adopt is to innovate strategically, understand which technology would help them and embrace it. And there are so many ecosystems, accelerators, sandboxes in the region, in the UAE, which can help organizations, which can help startups. Because a lot of startups it's not easy to innovate and integrate new technology. So with the help of, for example, you have DIFC FinTech Hive, you have Hub 71, you have Shira in Sharjah, you have In5 Innovation Hub. There are so many accelerators and sandboxes which can help you, startups, innovate in the region in a safe way. So tap into the resources that the UAE offers. The second thing that organizations need to understand is that it is very, very important to upskill your employees and tap into the global talent force for emerging technologies and the upcoming global shortage. The sooner you do that, the better it would be. You need to invest into your employees. And there are, again, the UAE is working, with the remote working visa that Grant mentioned. We have the golden visa and a lot of initiatives to not just attract the talent, but also retain it. And times are moving fast. We have so much coming up just in 2025 alone. So it's important to embrace an agile and changing mindset, the ability to change and pivot as per the norms, whether it's geopolitical or technological. So there's a lot of things. And last but not least, I think it's also important to collaborate and work together, because organizations and startups that work in silos miss up on collaboration and growth opportunities. So work with the regulators, the policymakers, the fellow startups, and these ecosystems, the regulators are really working to engage startups as well. So, for example, with FinTech Tuesdays, where me and Grant are ACMs, we worked with regulators, DIFC. They held an Investors Day event encouraging startups, connecting startups with investors. And similarly, Abu Dhabi also has a lot of these events, Sharjah, the whole ecosystem. So look into these events and engage with the ecosystem, and that will also help you grow.
I mean, all three of you are subject matter experts when it comes to your industries and your field of expertise. But usually, the common person struggles to understand what are these changes, and what are they meant to do on a grassroots level to overcome these changes. So I would like to open this for a discussion to all three of you, and probably we can start with you, Amna. In terms of what are the concrete changes that you're bringing, or what are the concrete preparations you're bringing to face the changes that you can foresee coming in, let's say, the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, so when you look at the fintech space and the emerging tech space, there's a lot happening, and there's a lot of increased competition and acceleration in technology. So I always, like I mentioned earlier, it's important to embrace the innovation that's happening around you in a strategic way, because the pace with technology is accelerating. If you do not embrace these, you will get behind. The second very important thing is to understand and be mindful of what the horizon looks like, and try to work there. So, for example, in the UAE, they recently, we have the UAE net zero policy for 2050. So organizations that pivot and work towards those, like, for example, work and organize their business models towards sustainability, etc., and work towards that, will also have higher chances of further success. Again, address the workplace shortage, the talent shortage, work in upskilling, in attracting the right talent, and look at what the ecosystem is evolving. Because the fact of the matter is, Gartner said, being from an emerging tech space, that 2025 is one of the top technology trends of 2025 is autonomous agentic AI, or AI agents. And by the end of 2025, we will see that the workplace will be totally modeled. Humans will be working alongside AI agents, and this is already happening. So tech is moving very fast. There will be short-term hiring shortages, so take that into account. But the good thing is that these technologies will also make startups around 30% more productive. So there's a lot that you can do. You just have to be very strategic and mindful and prepared.
Amazing. I mean, that does seem like there's a lot to be done in the next coming months. Johan, in your case, from your field of expertise, anything in particular that you plan to do over the next 12 to 24 months?
I'll try not to repeat my fellow panelists, but AI naturally is going to be a big element. If you look at AI in general, there's roughly around 200 billion of market value related to AI today, and that's expected to go to something like 1.3 trillion in 2030. So that's all value that's up for grabs. Doesn't matter if you're an institutional company, a startup, a founder, whatever it is. So I'd be silly not to mention AI agents and generative AI and all of these other things. Looking at the topic here for startups, it will enable founders to get to scale quicker, build more compact teams, perhaps. There was recently a company here in the UAE, I believe they're ADGM based, that secured something like 5 to 7 million USD in funding, and I think there are 15 people. So a lot of really cool teams can be built. We're running out of time, so maybe I'll just end up with a short story related to what Amna said before about working with regulators. We are all in the eye of the storm here, and that storm is innovation. A lot of things are happening around the world, and the regulators, whether it's the DIFC, ADGM, UAE, they're all looking to be in the forefront of innovation. So no matter the industry, myself, we have been launching a fintech in the investment fund space, and we found that a lot like ourselves, regulators were trying to figure stuff out on the fly. So work with the regulators and give them the feedback they need so they can sort of mold the markets, and then you're set for some really interesting things.
Amazing. I think there's some issue with the timer, so we still good on time. So Grant, in your case, what would you say? Anything concrete? Because many a times when you don't understand what you're meant to do, it's easier to probably follow a subject matter expert, right? So from that perspective, for our audience, if you can share, what do you plan to do over the 12, 24 months?
Yeah, so I'll give you this topic of AI. This whole event will be going on about it, as is every industry forum. It's just one example of disruptive technology changing industries. Okay, multiple industries, and it's also impacting the investment community, right? So I'll give just two examples, similar to Johan's story. So I was with the head of a family office this week as part of some of the work we're doing and their portfolio, advising them on the disruptive tech advancements and some of the target initiatives they're looking to progress this year and next year. And he told me a real life story of they had 9 analysts working in their department, doing a lot of the numbers crunching and all the business activities to do with deals and managing portfolio. Now they have 1. The rest are software AI agents. And they've trained them to manage the portfolio and also to do analysis work for them. So that's just a real life example, right? So they've got efficiency, but what they've done is they diverted their people into actually engaging with their portfolio companies and providing strategic input and on the ground support and their network and connectivity to help those businesses succeed, to ultimately help the investment from the family office side. So it's just a really simple, practical example of they're on the front foot around using technology to do things differently. I think the other thing is globally, and an area we're involved in is it's like the gold rush. Picks and shovels centuries ago were in massive shortage. What's in shortage here now is network connectivity, data centers, in particular these new small data centers called Edge, which is power edge technology, which supports all these different companies in this trading environment, right? Bringing that capability closer to users. That doesn't exist, especially in this region, anywhere near the scale that's needed. So we're working with organizations that have it already internationally and are looking to bring it here, or organizations and founders that are looking to scale that type of operation, working with big corporates, governments, and innovation communities in this environment. And then the last thing I'd say, similar to Amna, is there are amazing ecosystems here to share knowledge that doesn't cost you anything. So you can engage in all these startup communities that are supported by various different regulated entities, like in the financial services space, DIFC, ADGM. The central bank are launching all kinds of projects that are bank supported to support broader ecosystem players. And you can go along to these things and just meet people, share knowledge, and it's a very open environment. So, and I know that exists across multiple sectors, decentralized finance, into the trading world, into the broader tech disruption world. So, and a lot of the people are coming to this region to share that insight because they're based here, be it entrepreneurs or be it founders of businesses, be it talent that are working remotely and being hybrid for part of the year. So it's quite an exciting time. And I think this part of the world, because it's so central geographically and geopolitically, it's continuing to attract. So the next 24 months, we'll see more and more momentum.
I mean, that's amazing piece of advice from all 3 of our panelists. And I think for the audience, the biggest takeaway we have from this discussion is that please focus on adapting and embracing these new technologies and new standards and new way of doing business, whether it's remote working, whether it's AI integrations with what you do in your business. So we don't need to necessarily just look at AI as an independent industry anymore. It is something that's got a symbiotic relationship with traditional business and take it forward. Any last piece of advice, Amna, for the audience?
Yeah, invest in yourself. Do take upskilling seriously. Set around at least 1 hour a week at least to look into these new tech. And I wish you good luck on your startups and journeys.
Johan, any last words?
No, just kick ass.
Grant, from you?
Try and enjoy life. There's so much complexity out there. So I think the other thing is just get balance with it all, right? Especially founders. I run my own business. Trying to keep on top of everything and actually do it in a fun environment where you can actually engage with people. So
amazing.
Keep things simple.
Thank you, our panelists, and thank you, audience. It's been a pleasure talking to all of you.